You are now watching MWTV with your host, Tom Shattuck, featuring Maine Wire Editor-in-Chief Steve Robinson and the indispensable John Featherston.
Graham Pollard, Maine Wire guy, socials guy, marketing guy. Graham Platner, Nazi tattoo in women should not get themselves raped guy.
Thank you for that intro, Tom. That's a very important distinction. I need the internal Maine Wire team to really pay attention to that one a little bit more.
Has Janet Mills put out an attack ad against you, Graham Pollard?
It might be more effective than the attack ad she put out today. We'll see. But no, not to my knowledge. Not yet.
Well, John Featherston, we talked about it yesterday. We said this is the time, like if ever the polling shows it, let's get into gear. And she got into gear, right?
Right out of the box, until, of course, the great Graham Pollard did some investigating, I thought it was one of the best attack ads that I've ever seen. I mean, she laid it right out. There was no holding back, bleeping out, words on the ad. It looked good. It sounded good. And, she brought it right to him and called him out. And his response so far has been lackluster at that. Just, reposting an old video and saying, hey, I'm so sorry. I'm not, that isn't who I am. And okay, we all make mistakes. We all say things that we wish that we hadn't said. That nobody here has ever not done that. But what he said is pretty controversial. And in days gone by, it would have been enough for him to get out of the race. And I still have to think that somebody on his campaign or Bernie Sanders is going to come up to him, put a shoulder on him and go, okay, Graham, that's enough, right? Because can you walk back from this?
I don't think Bernie Sanders can. I mean, he's a true believer. Platner's a true believer, right? A Democratic Socialist. But let's go to the Mills attack ad on Graham Platner.
Did you know Graham Platner wrote that women worried about rape need to, quote,
not get so up they wind up having sex with someone they don't mean to.
It's disgusting.
Platner wrote to avoid rape, women should, quote,
act like an adult for sake.
Graham Platner, seriously.
We blame the victim. That's a horrible thing to say.
Disqualifying. I have not seen this.
He's a bully.
This guy gives off a vibe.
Just no way I could vote for you.
No.
Graham Platner, the closer you look, the worse it gets.
I'm Janet Mills, and I approve this message.
I think that's a freaking dagger, man. John, I agree with you. I think that is vicious. Now, I have a question because I'm coming to this later than you guys. Is that his real voice? Did he say?
No.
Oh, that's great, then. That's great. Oh, what a smear slime ball attack that is.
I should have got you to do it. You do a great Graham Platner.
Oh, that is so unethical. I love it. That is great. They use his own voice. That is, I think, John Featherston, I think it is brilliant. And one of the reasons why is, remember in the 2016 campaign when Chris Christie blew up Marco Rubio? And he said, Marco, you do it all the time. You start talking like a robot. You say the same thing. And then Marco would step into it and start talking like a robot again. And what she's done is lay down this trap. So when Platner sounds like Platner, then he's going to sound like the rapist in the spot. Mm-hmm. I think it's brilliant.
The genius to me in the ad is the little spyglass at the end. The more you look, the worse it gets, and it focuses right in on his tattoo. And I didn't catch it the first time, but when I rewatched the second time, I was on the Ray Richardson show this morning on KLB, and we were talking about it, and they played it a couple times. I didn't see it until the second time I played it. It's brilliant. It's brilliant, and it's going to be controversial because, it's got, it's bleeped out, and like if you're a little kid watching and go, "Mommy, what's that all about?" Mom has to kind of describe what's going on, why that.
It is filthy, John. It is filthy, and for them to, can you play this? Can you play it again, Matt? If you get it right there.
Did you know Graham Platner wrote that women worried about rape need to, quote,
not get so up they wind up having sex with someone they don't mean to.
It's That's disgusting.
Platner wrote to avoid rape, women should, quote,
Act like an adult for sake.
Graham Platner, seriously.
We blame the victim? That's a horrible thing to say.
Disqualifying.
I have not seen this.
He's a bully.
This guy gives off a vibe.
Just no way I could vote for you.
No.
Graham Platner, the closer you look, the worse it gets.
I'm Janet Mills, and I approve this.
I love to see Democratic friendly fire. And I think this is well done.
Democrat crime, yeah.
They must have spent a lot of money on this thing. I got to tell you, Graham Pollard, that I wanted to see more of the. I mean, this is a 30, I think. I would have been happy if this is a 130. I mean, this is like, I thought this was really, really biting.
Well, we don't have that much disagreement on this podcast, but we're going to have some today because I thought the ad was pretty bad, to be totally honest with you guys.
Okay.
I thought the angle of the ad was good. I thought going at him for that particular set of Reddit comments was a good idea. And I'm reminded of the International Women's Day thing that you like, Tom, that we all shared, where the woman is like got his hand on him and swooning over. So they clearly recognize that like women are into Platner and they need to start chipping away at that angle. So in terms of like I said, the angle of this ad I think is good. The execution of the ad I thought was pretty bad. And I've fought this since the beginning of the campaign that the Mills digital team just doesn't hold a candle to the Platner digital team. I think the production of that was like felt really contrived. The thing where they're handing them the iPad, like they're showing him the comments for the first time. And then it seemed very clear to me like there was bad acting where they were pretending they were reading the comments for the first time. And like that stripped away from the messaging to me where it just felt fake. And then with everything that's come out after the fact and the tweet we posted is actually going viral in far left circles, which almost never happens, where like all those 4 women were like long time, or at least 3 out of the 4 women, probably all 4 of the women are longtime Democrat operatives that are clearly like allies of the Mills campaign. And they're pretending in the commercial, they're acting like they're just average Mainers.
Yeah.
So this woman was the former chair of the Maine Democratic Party, and I think she's probably involved with the Mills administration or broadband efforts. Mm-hmm. And if you want to go over the next one, Matt. So this lady is the one is like way less clear if she actually has like direct ties to the Maine Democratic Party, but she was a longtime board member of Maine Public, and we all know like Maine Public's extremely left wing. She also has a consulting company. And then there was another lady who was a former former Obama administration official and former Democratic senator for a long time. And then the last lady is she works for the Emerge Action Fund. And apparently she's well known within the Andy O'Brien circles. Like the far left does not like her at all. There's something she was trying to do and like was some initiative in Portland that didn't go well. Apparently, I never heard of her until this ad, in full disclosure. But she is apparently a well-known entity among some of the far left Platner supporters. And like, why even do this? Why, like, how hard could it be to find 4 women that aren't Democrat operatives for this commercial? It's giving such a layup to the Platner people to discredit the commercial and saying you needed to bring in people that are clearly supporters of yours for this attack ad because you can't find any normal Mainers that feel the same way. So it just, to me, it like that solidifies the bad acting in the general presentation from the commercial, I thought, where it just felt fake to me and it didn't feel authentic.
Well, John, wouldn't that be, if you're a pundit or a Platner guy, isn't that what you're saying? Hey, this lady couldn't even find 4 civilians in the entire state to talk about this. This is clearly a nothing. He admitted to making mistakes. Can this be explained away effectively?
This is an amazing day because I almost always agree with Graham Pollard, and I usually never have anything nice to say about Janet Mills, but I still think, because we're all political nerds and we're all news nerds and we pay attention to this stuff. The average person who's going to see this at 6 o'clock in the morning or at 6 o'clock at night during their news broadcast, they're not going to know. And they're not going to care because what Platner said, if it's from a bad actor or from your next door neighbor, it's a really bad thing. And I do think it still resonates. I agree with what Graham's investigative work on who these people are. It's a bad optic, but the message is still much worse than the optic is.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hey, Matt, if at all possible, I don't know if we can even possibly do this, but I'm told that Platner is giving a presser right now to address all this stuff. I don't know if we nearly have the technology to do anything with this, but if we do, let's plug it in. I think, Graham, the thing that matters is, and this is what makes it so wonderfully unethical, is that they've got his voice. I've never heard anybody do that.
No, so it's not his voice; it's a voice actor that sounds like him.
Well,
and they made it very clear to main public that it is not AI. Although I don't know, I'm sure he's still out on that. I think if it's AI or not.
But what they're trying to tell people is that this is scraped audio from Platner really being himself saying, "Hey, if you get raped, walk it off." That's what
it's a toxic male voice is what they have. Yes.
Yeah, that's why I think it's just so brilliant. And I do think that women, especially women probably 35 and up, will hear if they're just learning now, and most people haven't opted into the campaign yet. They're just learning now and saying, okay, what's the oyster guy about? They're hearing him to say, put some ice on that, essentially, but with his own really boorish voice and delivery, even though it's not him. I think that's why it's so effective, John. I've known women who together, if you just played this for them at a bar, would be rip bleep angry.
100%. 100%. My wife's circle of friends, they would see something like this, automatically he's out. There's no way you could vote for it. Much like people said, during, Trump with Billy Bush, when Trump came off the bus and said, you grab the, woman by the, automatically disqualified. And if you were, I have good friends that were fathers with young daughters. Like, there's no way I can vote for that guy after he said something like that. So yeah, I mean, it's gonna resonate with a certain group. And we're told, and I'm told, that there is still another shoe to drop. That Mills has one more, just waiting to drop. I mean, and I've been waiting and casually wondering, like, what is she doing? She won the day today. We'll see what tomorrow brings. But I don't see how Platner can stand in front of a stage full of people now and say, hey, Tom, you want to go with me to the Platner rally? And you go and tell your wife, hey, I'm going with John to the Platner rally, and your wife's going to go, you're not going to a Platner rally. That guy's a terrible human being. I think she really wounded the campaign. I don't think it's over, but I think she really wounded the campaign now, because do you want to, here's the thing. Does Shanna Bellows want to be seen on a stage now with the man who said that? Does Troy Jackson want to be seen on a stage now? Or Pingree want to be seen on the stage standing next to the guy who just said that about a woman? I don't see how you could.
Oh, here's the presser. Let's see if we can get this baby going.
We've seen the Janet Mills recent ad.
Look, he loaded that room up with old woman too. I see that right off the bat.
Yeah.
Mainers deserve a conversation that is rooted in vision.
Is this Sophia Khalid? Unbelievable. Wow.
Focused on the real challenges people are facing every day, from the rising cost of living to access to health care and the need for stronger, more equitable communities.
Well, we know he's not going after fraud.
For bold and thoughtful action. Graham has been clear about this commitment.
I think this is a bad look for him to have this little lady fighting his battle right now.
Sophia Khalid is, of all people in Maine, this is crazy.
For all Maine people. These are not just policy positions. They reflect a deeper belief in dignity, fairness, and shared prosperity. At a time when our state and the country
this
are
is also terrible. This stupid boilerplate thing she's reading right now. He should be standing there and eating bleep for 1 hour straight, at least.
100%. But to bring her of all people out,
listen to communities,
and to defend this,
focus on solutions.
Yeah.
I think this is
He's
even
locked up
worse for him.
Locked up the Somali boat, that's for sure. But we already knew that because Sophia Khalid was endorsing him on TikTok.
Well, he came and spoke at her rally when they kicked me out of the church. Yeah, so I mean.
And
a rally, by the way, I don't know if you saw the video of it, John. They were chanting about how inclusive the Democrat Party was while kicking her out.
Look at that.
Let's go. That guy on his left, the guy keeps having meals with him and posting about it.
I don't think so. I don't know who that is, actually.
I don't know either.
Some celebrity, but the guy who keeps posting meals.
When I read through my old internet posts, when they resurfaced 6 months ago, I was horrified.
Oh, don't do this, Graham.
I did not recognize him.
Oh, he's walking right into it.
I didn't recognize recognize myself in this person that was struggling to find meaning and posted all.
Oh, what a mistake right off the bat.
I am sorry. But it does
First
not
time he's
in any
apologized.
way reflect who I am today or the beliefs that I hold.
But it does.
Thank you all so much for being here today. And thank you for your support in this campaign. It takes political courage to come out against those in power, and it is not lost on me what this means. Together, we are building a movement to defeat Susan Collins and win a better future for working Mainers. Thank you.
So there's a bunch of clips already going viral on Twitter of old interviews he did where he said he stands by a lot of the comments he made on Reddit.
Yeah, I think we have one of those. So wait, did he already take questions or is he not taking questions? Because that would be unbelievable. Unless he's going to do it in a scrum.
Yeah, we did join a little bit late.
Really well said.
Hot mic in the background.
Yeah.
Well, John, I mean, he did say what he has to say, that this is a bigger battle. Everybody's going piling on the outsider. Right? This power structure that hates the new guy, who's a fresh face, who's not a zillionaire, who's not an oligarch, who's not part of the establishment that's been swept away by DC corruption.
Tom, I had to go back and reread or re-listen to his apology that he posted, 6 months ago, and when he was an angry man and is blaming this on, PST from his time in war and stuff like that. Even 6 months ago, I thought it was disingenuous. Today, to bring out Sophia Khalid and say that you're sorry and this isn't who you are, but it is who you are. No, like I said, miracles happen. I'm polling for Janet Mills now in this race. I mean, Sophia Khalid.
John, for people new to this story, tell them who Sophia Khalid is.
Sophia Khalid is the first city councilor in the history of Maine to be, Somali, of a Somali descent. She was born in Somalia. I think she came over to Somalia when she was very little. She served a 2-year term on the city council. She's also the person that went on social media and called our boss, editor-in-chief Steve Robinson, a neo-Nazi and a white fascist. And the same lady, when I went up to her at a Lewiston City Council meeting that she was attending, and said to her that she owed Steve Robinson and the staff of the Maine Wire a apology, she pushed me and said, "Get out of my way, old man." So Sophia Khalid has never been to a Mensa meeting. She won't be bringing the potato salad to the Mensa meeting, this summer, because she's not the smartest person in the world. She's being played as a political pawn here. And I think it's fascinating. And once again, I'll ask again, Shanna Bellows, you going to stand on a stage with Graham Platner? Hannah Pingree, are you going to stand on a stage with Graham Platner after this? Because please do, because it's a horrible optic if you do, and it's only going to ensure that Susan Collins is going to get reelected. I mean, your choice is horrible or even worse, in this Democratic primary right now. You got a guy who says, hey, a woman deserved to be raped because she, had too much to drink and she didn't act like an adult. Or you can elect an old lady who's a bully and a pit bull, to be your next senator. Or you could go, elect Susan Collins, re-elect Susan Collins, who's done a good job for years and will continue to do a good job for years. So.
My guy, Andy O'Brien, is now posting some cuts from this. I just sent this one, Matt. He had a sexual assault survivor come and speak first. All this putting women up on the podium to use them as human shields is inglorious. This is not a good look, but Matt, grab that when you can. I just think that the model is this. When Chris Christie did Bridgegate, he sat and took absolute incoming for like 2 hours. He took everything. So this is the sexual assault survivor speaking for Platner on his behalf.
Hello, my name is Rebecca Hartwell. Do I need to take the mask off? A little over a week ago, I had the privilege of introducing Graham Platner at his town hall in South Berwick. When I did, I talked about the Me Too movement. I talked about protecting the other women who would have come after me. I tied it all into the ways that I see Graham Platner earning my trust and the trust of others like me to his core. One aspect of that shared trauma has been on my mind all day today. That of the passive contributors who helped keep me in abuse because they were still benefiting from my abuser. The person with business interests who convinced me that I shouldn't believe my abuser's other victims because they were bitter, crazy, and so on. The fan of his who argued with me when I described being raped, because if they had accepted my definitions, then they too would bear the label of rapist.
This is Rich.
It was more dangerous.
In other words,
to leave without a plan, money.
Janet Mills is the pro-rape candidate by proxy.
This is unbelievable.
Yeah. These are always crazy when, like, from this woman's perspective. Like, imagine if a Republican said the same exact things that Graham Platner said on Reddit. Like, people will just, in general, I'm not even saying this person, but in general, people will contort their views and their viewpoints so wildly if it means like backing up someone that they've previously supported. He's doing like the same thing Mills did in the ad, where he's bringing out like dedicated, loyal, like known supporters of him to speak on his behalf here, which I think is a little surprising. I think he'd be better off just having them up on the stage next to him and him speaking.
It's terrible. The whole thing is that he reeks of misogyny, and now when things get tough, he's using female human shields, including a rape victim.
I was going to say the exact same thing, Tom. This poor woman went through a traumatic experience, and now Graham Platner is exploiting that horrible experience to benefit him politically. It goes again to his character. Like, like Graham says, if they just stood there and didn't say anything, you're not really exploiting them. But this is blatantly exploiting this woman's traumatic experience, so you can get me out of the boiling pot of water. I mean, that's bad. That's bad.
Oh, my goodness. That's a great point, John. I wouldn't be surprised if Democrats in the state get 5,000 rape victims to say, this woman was getting on with her life. Why did you bring her out here to have to relive any of this stuff? Like, because you can't shut the F up on a Reddit thread, or you're getting wasted and can't control whatever misogynistic instincts you have? God, it's inglorious. It's inglorious. And I think that this is not a good day. I do think also, Graham, that this is obviously a hit. This was going to be happening, and this is an attempt to take him out.
Well, actually, I think this is like the 5th or 6th scandal down the scandal power tree that Platner has. I think there's like these comments were known. This wasn't the first time these comments have been out there. They were revealed 3 or 4 or 5 months ago, something like that. So now they're just putting it into an ad. There's a million more comments that of a similar nature, not about women, but just in similar like level of controversy that they could make a commercial for. Like the production. His word.
Black people don't tip.
The black people don't tip. The rural Mainers are stupid. Obviously the My Taunton comp stuff. He can't keep a narrative straight at all when it comes to the tattoo, and he can't keep a narrative straight when it comes to the Reddit comments, because like the video that I alluded to earlier is him being like, someone challenged him and he stammers for a while, and he's like, "Whoa, actually, I stand by a lot of the comments I made." So you can't really do this excuse of, "Oh, I had PTSD. I don't recognize the person I was back then," when then he goes on a podcast and says, "Well, actually, a lot of the comments I made, most of the comments I made, I stand by." So this guy, when he gets pressed, he crumbles because he's used to people fawning over him. Yeah, here's a clip right here.
I made a lot of comments that I'm not like ashamed of. It's not as though I have this ream of comments in which I look back and I'm like, oh my God, I was a terrible person back then. I made a lot of comments.
Yeah. So, I mean, basically directly contradicts the press conference that he just did right there.
John, if your campaign, the Platner campaign, what's your public statement right now?
My public statement would have been, at 8 o'clock this morning, you're on vacation. Go back over and try to get your wife pregnant again out of the country and stay out of the news for the next couple days and let this thing blow over, because I don't see how you walk this back. I don't really see. There is nothing worse you can do to a woman than rape a woman. Like, there's nothing worse to it. And for him now to parade out rape victims to block for him, he's taking this even lower into the mud. I mean, this is bad.
I think that the statement should have been from Team Platner should have said that Mills should take the video down now, take the ad down now. We're demanding it because the ad is 100% false. It's an artificial voice saying artificial things, and try to dump out the actual content with the fake voice. So people will just discount the ad, say, no, it's fake. It's not, that's not me saying that. That's not me. I didn't say it. That's not me saying that. And just say the whole thing is just a smear and you can't trust anything. But I do think that's why I think this is fantastic, because we've all known all of this stuff since the fall. So that's why it's a hit, because somebody is making phone calls and calling in favors saying, okay, we're revisiting this. The ad's going to drop and we're going to react to this like it's the first time around. So whatever we already, because we thought, like you said, John, you just wrote about it, I think, that now it's the real campaign is on.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So they're now reestablishing or reanimating all these old hits on him and repackaging them and hitting him now with this. And I think the next one will be, it's going to be about black people tipping. And Janet Mills is going to say, it brings me no pleasure to have to discuss this because it's ugly and racism has no place in 2026, especially since we've seen so many awful things happen. And Graham Platner represents a time that we should have left behind back in the days of Jim Crow. And once again, it brings me no pleasure to say this, and just make it cute like that. And just bomb this guy into submission right now. The thing is, though, Graham, Pollard is, who knows if it's going to take in the polls. I mean, I assume that he's going to get nicked up.
Here's what you do if you're Graham Platner. Here's how you respond. It's very simple. You got to fight fire with fire. He has a way better digital team, a way better ad team than Janet Mills. There's several similar themes to this you could pull on with a more effective ad. Janet Mills vetoed a bill that would have provided rape kits to sexual assault victims. And then there's another long-standing story when she was AG or DA, she dismissed a case against someone who was accused of sexual assault. I apologize if I'm a little hazy on the details of that. I saw someone posting about that on Twitter today. But he could go on the offensive and he could start hitting Janet Mills for those and the myriad of other controversies that Janet Mills had. There's a lot of material there. That's what I think he does. I think he just goes over the top. She landed a jab. He's going to come back with the right hook counter and just start going and knocking her out.
I think those things are, the Mills record is fair, but John, I don't think he can get into a rape debate with her.
No, if he attempts to do that, he's just, I mean, it's completely over. And then everybody should be then calling for him to resign, because, I mean, if he did that, it's completely over, I think. Yeah, he can't do that. He just can't. I mean, this is the third rail. You don't, this is not something that you turn into a public spectacle. I mean, the rape of a woman, I mean, come on. I mean, no. And I just, is that, and even look at his press conference. What's the optic of his press conference? You've got, a bunch of older women there, and then, Sophia Khalid. I mean, what message is that sending to her? Is that Maine? Is he trying to say that that's, representative of what Maine is? I don't know.
Yeah. I was shocked when we turned it on and Sophia Khalid was on the mic. You could have given me a million guesses of things to see when we flipped over to that press conference. I would never have guessed Sophia Khalid would be on the mic. But to be clear, he doesn't need to get in a rape argument, but he can start pumping out some attack ads of his own. And he's got a way better digital team.
Yeah.
And if Janet Mills landed the first blow, if she's going to make it a mudfest, he can make it a mudfest too. And I think he would come out on top in that battle. I do.
All right, let's go to the chat here has some interesting messages. James says, how long until Collins starts bringing the heat? John?
I think it'll be a while because, it's the classic thing. When you roll around in mud with people, everybody gets dirty. Collins doesn't need to get dirty right now.
Collins is loving this.
Right, exactly. Collins is just going to stay out of this, stay away from it. This is, Democrat on Democrat crime right now, and Susan Collins won't touch this with the 10-foot pole, I don't think.
And this is like, so I think best case scenario for Collins, or a good scenario for Collins, is that this bangs up Platner a lot, but he still squeaks through. Because then she can just use the Republican Senate money and continue the conversation, the misogynist conversation. This guy is out of touch with women. He's a 1950s a drunken, abusive husband kind of figure. So I mean, that's how you finish him in the general. If I know where it's far away, Graham, but that's what you do, right?
Yeah, no, she doesn't need to get involved right now. Let them two fight it out. And if Platner continues to hang high in the polls, we're going to see more of this from the Mills administration, which is the best thing that can ever happen. And also, I do want to say, she would never admit it, and she's attacking Collins a lot. But gun to her head, I bet you Governor Mills would rather Susan Collins win than Graham Platner. Like, 100%. She's pretending not to, which is politics. But she and Susan Collins get along like fairly okay, from what I understand. Yeah. And Mills understands that Susan Collins actually has delivered like quite a lot for Maine, and Susan Collins is the one that gets stuff done. So like, I bet if you gave her truth serum, she would rather Collins win over Platner. So for Mills, why not keep rolling these attack ads out? Like, if you survive in advance, great. If not, then I think she's kind of okay with weakening him.
Mills has to continue with the attack ads. She's 15% behind in the polls, as of this morning. She has to continue with it, and they will be effective. Making up 15 points is pretty big, though.
Well,
but I've also always called into question the polling in Maine, though, too. How accurate is the polling in Maine? If you remember last time, Susan Collins was down on election day, bad in the polls, and she ended up winning by 5-6%. So the polling, I sometimes think, is very, very skewed. But I have it on some very good sources that this isn't even the big one. This is is just the incoming. They're taking out the radar system. The big bomb is still coming. So
so Jacqueline says he did say it, right? Yes, he did actually say it, but not in that audio that you heard. That was an actor.
He wrote it. He did not say it. He wrote it. Yeah.
But I'm sorry, John. I think that's one of the dirtiest things I've ever seen in politics, is to have somebody do his voice with his tone, say, "Suck it up. Don't get so damn drunk," or whatever he says. That is filthy dirty. That is a kill shot, which is what you have to do in politics, right?
Well, you want a friend in politics? Get a dog, because what's fair today might not be fair tomorrow. Yep.
Well, I've said this before in the show. I went to college in North Carolina. There was the Republican candidate, Mark Robinson, was very popular. He was a black Republican. There's a big African-American population down here. The attack ads against him just completely decimated his campaign. And there was like one line where he was at church and he said, "Some folks need killing." And then it was totally taken out of context, but that was just on repeat during the entire football season. He posted, "I'm a black Nazi" in the comments of a porn website. They were doing the same thing where that was plastered over your TV. It took him from 60-70%, like he was leading in the polls in the general. And I think he got 28 to 30% of the vote when it was all said and done. Like, the attack has just decimated his campaign. And I think you're going to see the same thing with Platner if these keep up. I think this was the appetizer, as John said. And if it's during football season and the Collins campaign has got some slick ads like this, and she's got that war chest, and it's one of the most important races in the country, and they're pumping out ads with stuff like this, it's going to be real hard to recover from.
It's a great point. Maine broadcast companies have just been thrown a lifeline. They are going to absolutely be stewing in ad buys. Can we do pre-rolls here? Let's go.
But Platner would be really smart to take up Steve Robinson on his invitation to do a sit-down interview with him right about now.
Well, because let me say something, John, is that even in the thing we saw where he's stammering there, he's talented. He doesn't come off like really cynical or hateable.
His staff is talented. He's an actor, Tom.
Well, he's a good actor. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, he's a very good actor, but is his campaign staff now able to write the script to fit this narrative? And I don't know that anybody can write a script to fit this narrative. Like, I mean, how do you justify those comments about a woman getting raped and it was her fault and like she wasn't adult enough and she was too drunk? Like, I don't know how you write that script. And if you do write that script, it probably wins an Academy Award because it's like impossible to write.
Mike says this is disgusting, having this guy promote his political career on the back of women who have had horrible atrocities happen to them. Yeah, but he, man. Let's see. I'll take Collins over. He says I'll take Collins over the other two. I think that's what we feel as well. Trisha says, and this is something that we're seeing not just from Collins, but from almost everybody who runs now. A real soldier never, ever uses their military service as a platform, period. Those days ended with John Kerry, I think. But I generally agree. It should be, your service is something that somebody else should mention. Mm-hmm. Let's see. You know what? Do we want to move on? Want to move on to the referendum question?
Sure. Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. So as of today, officially, Shanna Bellows signed off on a new referendum question. And this is something that I'm actually surprised it got this far, but it possibly we're going to be restoring, or at least Mainers are going to have the chance to restore some sanity into the world.
Yeah, hopefully they take lessons from the ones last semester or last session, the voter ID referendum, and they really button down the question and they try to make it Shanna-proof, because this should be a no-brainer and it's a wildly popular initiative. And people on the left are trying to say, well, it's funded by an out-of-state billionaire. I don't put any stock into that. I think it's completely irrelevant to the success and to the just general principles behind the referendum. Something that, could be an 80-20 issue if it's all buttoned up and if they don't let the opposition totally tank it. But I don't see where funding would come from in opposition on this one, to be totally honest. So I think this is one of the few pieces of fantastic news coming out of Maine recently.
So this would ban trans athletes from girls' sports teams. That's what we're talking about here.
Correct.
I think that there are some LGBTQIA plus organizations nationally, Graham, that would.
Yeah, that's fair. That's probably
and
true.
Probably the ACLU, as a matter of fact, these days. Incredibly.
Yeah, but are you gonna pump millions of dollars in to fight this initiative? I mean, Graham says it's an 80-20 issue. I think, if we're giving that truth serum out to people, it's a 90-10 issue. Like, people don't think this is right. And I was texting with Leland Strife earlier today, before the press release came out. What this really does, though, too, it creates opportunities for everybody. This isn't boys versus girls. This is creating an opportunity that if you are trans, you have an opportunity to still play sports. This is not banning anybody. This is creating opportunities for all in the public schools. So how can you be against that? And you want to spend millions of dollars to fight, fairness? I raised my boys telling them that life isn't fair. But this maybe I was wrong, because this is fairness right here. I mean,
right. Well, this
everybody equally.
Right.
Isn't that what we're supposed to do?
Right. Yeah, and you're right. Trans guys have always been able to play sports just against the guys, because that's how we do it. What they want is, and this is what they've gotten so far in many blue states, is the forcing us to engage in their delusion, even at the price of safety and comfort for women, which is a direct violation of Title IX. Mm-hmm. So, and I mean, it's insidious. Everybody knows, except if you're a psychotic, everybody knows that a man cannot become a woman, no matter what happens with hormones, no matter what happens with surgery, no matter what happens ever, 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 and ever. It cannot happen. Now, 20 years ago, you didn't have to have this discussion. And now medical organizations are now backing off of it. Many countries in Europe have now said, okay, hit the brakes. We effed this up badly. We were wrong on this. But the left was clever enough now to use this blackmail, saying that if you don't call Bill Sheila, which we can call, you can change your name, but then you have to pretend that Sheila is every much a girl as the actual Sheila. And if not, then this guy's going to kill himself. That's the extortion, Graham, right? That's what they use to bully everybody and scare everybody into saying you're going to either have a live daughter or a dead son.
Exactly right, Tom. That's 100% right. And they take it even to more extremes like than that. I remember a couple years ago, there was a city council debate over the city paying like $1,400 to paint the sidewalk rainbow colors for Pride Month. And a woman went up to the podium, young girl, and said, without the visibility of this, like, we might commit suicide. And I was sitting there, I mean, I'm paraphrasing her, of course, but that's essentially the message. And I was sitting there thinking, like, if the color of a sidewalk is determinant of if you're going to commit suicide or not, don't you think that's like indicative of a deeper issue that you maybe need to look into? Like a sidewalk shouldn't be a life or death issue here. So I like, and I think that same logic applies to the trans issue. You know, you can live your life, you can find workarounds, you can compete in an independent a league, you can do, there's a whole myriad of options that you can do without robbing biological girls from their rightful championships, their rightful victories. And that is happening now. And Graham Platner, I saw, said, oh, there's only 2 trans athletes in Maine, and we got billionaires making this an issue to distract us from universal health care. Like, tell every girl that Graham Platner, and see how that message comes across.
The playing field is always questionable because somebody eventually is going to get hurt and devastatingly hurt. But to me, it's always been more, and Tom talks about it every once in a while, it's the locker room that is more disturbing. You've got, a 12-year-old girl, going through puberty, life changes. Do you want a boy in there? Do you want a boy in the locker room? Do you want a boy in the bathroom? Do you want a boy checking them out? I'll say the same thing to a 12-year-old boy. 12-year-old boy's going through life changes. Does he want a girl coming into his locker room and checking him out? Now, any boy is going to go, oh, yeah, I would really want that. But the reality is they don't, because it's an uncomfortable situation. So it's so nice to see common sense is returning to society here, and this should be don't take your foot off the gas, because this is an important issue, and Maine has to plant the flag for the rest of the nation on this issue. But this should be an easy one. But it's not over until it's over.
Well, so let's say the referendum passes. Mm-hmm. Will Maine lawmakers, or whoever the governor is, are they going to enforce this?
Well, that's an interesting question, right? Much like the audit in Massachusetts passed by 72%, and right. The legislature said, nope, we're not doing it. Yeah, it will be fascinating to see that, Tom. Yep.
Yeah, the lawyers will get involved real quick. It'll be like we had David Trahan on earlier talking about the red flag law, some constitutionality issues. You already know there's going to be a coalition of lawyers lined up to challenge this one and to take it to the courts and to bleed every cent dry and to delay and stall. So they just got to be prepared for all contingencies. Like we've been saying, it's a popular issue. You just got to get it all batten down the hatches and prevent any sort of interference that could skew this, like a Shenabella's ballot wording situation. She's trying right now to figure out a wording for this thing that's going to be, I don't know. Do you want to strip trans people of their right to freedom, or something like that in the ballot wording? So you just got to be prepared for every contingency.
And is the Supreme Court going to rule on this before this even gets, to the election, though, too? Because that's an interesting, because, this is in front of the Supreme Court right now. And, they're slow walking it, my words, they're slow walking this thing. But, if the Supreme Court comes out in the fall and makes a ruling on this, and then this passes at the ballot, I don't see how Augusta can then, not go forward with it.
Mike says you can live your life the way you want to, just stay out of women's spaces and away from the children. No, they don't want to. And right now it's women's spaces mostly, but the encroachment on children, they're already getting closer. We talked about the book yesterday, the Leatherface book, whatever it was. Mm-hmm. These people, the move is to more sexualized children. They're for it. Their parents, progressive parents, are for it. Like I've said, I've got 2 kids in 2 different schools, and each school has a furry in there. So that means there's parents who are willing to let the kid dress up as a purple chipmunk for school. And, soon they're going to tell us that we all have to pretend.
Tom, Seamus is working on a incredible story right now. And I don't want to give anything away, but it's a burlesque show. Got nothing wrong with burlesque shows if it's all consenting adults. They had someone that looks like a middle schooler performing at this burlesque show. So look out, stay tuned for the main wire for that story. But how are parents okay with that? That's goes to the exact point you're making. Like, some of these people have been so brainwashed when they're in that community that they want their kids to be exposed to. It's just straight grooming is what it is. There's no other word for it.
Yeah, well, they're telling, what they're doing is, with Trump, it makes it easier, I think, for them. Because they're saying that the poor drag queens out there who are dressed like, a really fat 55-year-old Anna and Elsa from Frozen, those poor drag queens, if Trump had it his way, Trump and the MAGA people would murder those people. So let's bring the kids down to show we love the drag queens. Let's show them. And when we're there, we'll pretend that the drag queens have talent, and we'll pretend they're not creepy weirdos, even though they themselves, in my personal experience, always considered themselves talentless weirdos. But that's what we're doing here. And the ultimate sacrifice for, there are still people who make kids wear masks. It was 2 years ago, but I was at in Newburyport, Mass. There's a big national park there. It's an outdoor park there. It's beautiful. It's essentially a long peninsula out into the Atlantic Ocean, where they've got all sorts of trails. There's nothing around, and they've got observation decks, and it's very, very pretty. If you ever get down there, check it out. But I remember that when we were on top of one of these big observation decks. It's like 25 feet up, and a mom and a child come up, and the child has a mask on, and the mom was telling the child, you can take your mask off. You can take your mask off. We're outside now. This is all winter things. You can take your mask off. And the kid wouldn't. I thought, man, congratulations, man. What other ways have you damaged him? Because we're listening to wacko activists, many of whom happen to wear lab coats, and we've just screwed ourselves up here. And you see, by the way, you see that with the lady who Platner put up there, the sexual assault victim too. Yep. When she gets up there, she's like, should I take this off now? Do I have to take it off? Well, if you think you're going to die, then you don't have to take it off. But why do you think you're going to die? Has this lady been through enough that now that you should get all these other picadillos to have to deal with, like masking up? It's like,
if I had my way and one person was going to be held accountable for the last 5 or 6 years, it would be Dr. Fauci gets, thrown in jail. But every day it goes by, I think less and less of that's going to happen. But I mean, the man lied to millions of people and allowed your grandmother and your loved ones to die alone. And it's tragedy. And the mental health crisis that we caused with middle schoolers and elementary school kids during COVID is now only going to get even worse because, people didn't learn, and what they did learn is they learned that human interaction is bad, and you're going to have a whole generation graduating from high school in the next couple of years that are severely messed up and lack social skills and educational skills, and it's all going to be, in my opinion, Dr. Fauci's fault. So,
absolutely. Remember, he flipped on masking at the beginning of the pandemic.
On everything.
Yeah. Flipped on, but remember, if it's Fauci's fault, then it's also the complicit media's fault.
Yep.
The media never cross-examined these medical people. They never cross-examined them when they should have.
Well, because the nightly news is paid for by Pfizer or another pharmaceutical company. They're never going to flip on their paycheck. Yeah.
Yeah, and as Ryan in the chat says, I mean, Nirav Shah was the main version of Fauci, and he is the leading Democrat candidate right now. So,
how can that be?
Yeah, not much lessons being learned from the left on that one. I feel like there's an addiction to danger and oppression that it kind of guides the fundamental issues here between all of it. They need Nirav Shah's guiding voice to get him through whatever the last 5 years, and it's almost like they have daddy issues with Nirav Shah now.
Whoa, no, that's right on. But a lot of these public health people have been shown to be absolutely insane. Dr. Francis Collins with his song, the Puff the Magic COVID song, where he and his wife are dancing. Peter Hotez, who's unhinged every time he goes anywhere. And, you saw him with Rogan, and Rogan essentially just beat him up. And the other guy was it Sanjay Gupta, the other doctor for CNN who went on Rogan, and Rogan tore him a new one.
Oh yeah,
And he said, "Oh, sorry, Joe, I didn't say that. I'm sorry. I know Anderson Cooper said some mean things. I didn't say it." It's like, you guys are all freaking activists. Every single one of these guys are activists.
The light bulb went on for me, though, is when you had all the dancing nurses in the emergency rooms, and they're all doing their dance routines. I'm like, wait a minute. I was convinced for about 2 weeks that it was the end of the world. I was, I look at data, and I only look at data. My world is black and white. I was convinced that it was bad. And then all of a sudden you have all these dancing nurses, and I was like, okay, wait a minute. This is all an act. So, I mean,
Yes, John, you had flawless renditions of Riverdance in some of these hospital wards, and we were told that they were going to be overrun. Like, it was just, I may have said the story before, but I worked for a paper in Boston at the time, and I was in a conference call with a bunch of heads of hospitals. And the heads of the hospital, I remember one of the guys saying, people are complaining about kids having to wear masks and having to mask up and being socially distanced. Well, remember, guys, if you think it's tough for these kids, remember the kids in London and during the London Blitz. They sucked it up and didn't complain. And that was from a doctor who also ran a hospital. And it's like, the parallel doesn't work, because during the London Blitz, there really were Messerschmitts dive bombing up there. For kids in America, the COVID pandemic did not affect them. Okay? The kids were essentially immune from COVID, or from serious COVID, unless they had other conditions. So, don't tell me. So we have to damage the kids in the name of this panic, because the COVID doctors just didn't know. They didn't know what they were dealing with. And they should have said that. They should have said, we don't know. But they didn't, or few of them did. But they didn't.
But when the data started to be generated, no leader was looking at the data and going, I mean, I looked at the data as the health, the leader of the Board of Health in Ashland, Massachusetts. And I'm like, wait a minute. So old people that are heavy are dying.
Mm-hmm.
Obese people in their 30s are dying, and nobody else is dying. Like, I had that data because the CDC would send it to your local boards of health. I had that data going, this isn't the epidemic that they're saying it is. And then when I said it, I got kicked off of Twitter. I got banned from Twitter.
Yeah.
I got the local media kind of went after me, calling me, a conspiracy theorist and stuff. Here we are 6 years later. John was right. They were all wrong. So, I mean,
per
it's
usual.
not about me, but it's about the data. You have to look at the data. The data tells you everything.
Well, in the fact that CNN called it the Wuhan virus in early 2020, and as soon as Trump started to blame the virus on China, they stopped calling it that and said that was a slur.
The China virus.
Yeah. This was always about Trump. Always about, had Trump been a crazy masker, they would never have worn their masks. They would have gotten arrested, showing us that they didn't wear their masks. These people were just not. And you know what, John, you've been in small town politics and bigger town politics and state politics. The people, this really exposed for me too some of the small town politics folks, because just even the town where I am, they closed the woods area, where you'd walk around in trails. They closed it. And then eventually when they opened it, they said, okay, you can go there, but you can't park there because we don't want too many cars there. But you can go there. You can go there this way. You can either walk there or you can run there. And walk or run? Like, who the frig is doing? It's just amazing, these people.
I personally enjoyed during COVID because I had to still work. Most of the country shut down. But driving on roads with no traffic, seeing clear blue sky because there was no pollution or carbon emissions into the sky, I think it was, it was nice. It was fun to be out. And, the best thing for everybody would have been for everybody just to go outside.
Yes.
Yeah, of course. Yep.
Go outside and keep all the businesses open. Keep all the businesses open. If we're undergoing a pandemic where many Americans are going to die, then at least we need to survive through it. We can't destroy ourselves physically and also financially, destroy restaurants and ski resorts and gyms and churches and mom and pop shops. It's like the next time around when this happens, which could be any time, by the way, because the Chinese have never had to have any kind of reckoning for any of this stuff. No. When this happens next time, it's going to have to be this is going to kill some of us, but we can't let it destroy every aspect of our lives. And never again, if it doesn't affect children, we never again pull this crap.
Well, Tom, the Lead Maine, which is Laura Libby's new initiative, just put something out today. 75% of Maine fourth graders are not proficient in reading. Only a quarter of the students in Maine fourth grade are up to reading levels. It was trending down before COVID, but if you look at the charts of when of the test results, it plummets significantly right when COVID happens. That is generational learning loss that can be traced directly back to those policies, including policies pushed by Nirav Shah and Janet Mills. Obviously, there's other issues in the Portland and the general schools and that, but spending in public education has skyrocketed and results continue to plummet. We're doing land acknowledgements and we're reading the definition of equity before every school board meeting, but nothing is improving in terms of general wisdom. So if there's been no recognition that we might have screwed that one up, and there's been no real push to regain the learning loss that happened in COVID, and then Nirav Shah is the leading candidate, it's what are we doing here? What are these people missing that we're not missing? And I think it just comes down to they're being brainwashed by MSNBC and CNN, and they just have bought in so hard to this stuff. And the propaganda from the media, I think, is one of the most significant issues of the last century of the damage that is done to people. It's truly unbelievable.
I'm pro-teacher is somebody that you're going to meet. As a conservative, I am very pro-teacher. I couldn't do the job. I respect anybody who can do the job. But you can also now say you have tenured teachers, because COVID was 6 years ago? You have tenured teachers now who don't know how to teach because they taught during Zoom and they didn't know the challenges. Now with the immigration policies, we just pass everybody. They don't read or write. Oh, that's okay. Promote them to the fourth grade, and that's why you have Laura Libby's statistics there now. People don't know how to read, they don't know how to write. So somebody doesn't know how to teach it. Somebody doesn't know how to read. It's just going to have a domino effect for the next generation, and people really need to wake up and say, stop talking about pride flags and furries and cat boxes in the classroom, and go back to the basics: reading, writing, and arithmetic.
Yeah, well, Steve's been, shouting from the rooftops that that's why they're going to be supplanted by AI. Yep. People are going to have another choice out there. Parents are going to find a way to get a little cohort of kids, and that's one of the few silver linings of the COVID thing was people discovered some homeschooling. It also became destigmatized for a lot of people, because I think that for a lot of, especially in blue states, the homeschoolers were kind of considered kind of weird. Not anymore. Whatsoever. It's we did it for a little bit here, and it is remarkable how much your kid can learn with just 25 minutes of personalized attention from a parent proctor or whatever it is. The system sucks. The system right now is a daycare system.
Yeah, totally. Tom, one quick fraud story I'd like to touch on, if you're okay with that, before we sign off here. So this is a small one, but I think it kind of demonstrates the whole ecosystem. So we did a story in the Main Wire today about Susan Collins joining with Angus King in a bipartisan coalition, mostly Democrat, to try to get the heating oil funding restored. So this is $40 million that's intended to help low-income individuals with heating oil assistance, pay so they don't freeze to death in the winter in Maine. Noble program. You can understand why Susan Collins supports it. So it's a $40 million block grant to the Maine Housing Authority, I believe. And then 27% of that goes to heating oil assistance. $13 million of that money goes to subcontracts. And those subcontracts go out to nonprofits. And, some of those nonprofits could conceivably be putting that money to good use. Of note, two of the nonprofits that are getting money for heating oil assistance, one is Prosperity Maine, which is just your standard new Mainer initiative. It's the same as all the other migrancy agencies. The other one is the United Somali Women of Maine. So somehow the United Somali Women of Maine has managed to get their hands on $140,000 intended for heating oil assistance for low Mainers. So the reason I bring that up is not just for this story. It's if you look at the United Somali Women of Maine, they have their hands in every single pot, every single grant like this, they're getting some money from. It's truly unbelievable to look at the amount of money they're getting and the different programs they're pulling money from. And like 140,000, yes, it's a lot, but compared to 40 million, maybe you say that's peanuts. But if you add that 140,000 up with all the other programs, they're getting millions, if not tens of millions of dollars a year from these various government programs. So like, even if that's not explicitly fraud in the legal sense of the definition, I think everyone can agree that the United Somali Women of Maine was probably not the intended recipient of the heating oil assistance money. So I just wanted to point that out so people know, like, that is what Maine is dealing with here. It's such an ingrained system that these people have somehow managed to lobby in every layer of government to get these funds intended for poor Mainers channeled towards their nonprofit. And then, to my knowledge, there's absolutely no audit or verification system or anything where it's like, okay, you need to prove that this money was spent for heating oil assistance. To my knowledge, it's just a grant, and they can use that money for anything that they want. And if you look at their website, I mean, there's nothing about heating oil assistance on their website. There's nothing about providing heating support on their website. So just one small story, and the story we put in the main wire wasn't even about that. It was mostly just that Susan Collins is pushing for the money. But like a seemingly well-intentioned program like that has United Somali Women of Maine getting their little hands in the pot.
It is amazing just how many of these grants or these frauds using Medicaid or whatever it is, getting yourself in between government taxpayer money and the intended recipients. It's interesting just how turnkey they are, and like universal turnkey, like you're saying, Graham. Like if you learn how to do the fraud in category A, then you know category B through Z too.
Yeah, exactly. And they're good at it. Like there's no other way to say it. They're good at getting money. Like they're very successful in getting money.
Yeah, they absolutely are. It's almost as if it's being encouraged,
Yeah, right.
All right. So we are looking forward to seeing you. Is it a week from today? When is it?
Week from today. Yep.
1 week from today. Yeah, wow, we're 7 days out. Yeah, candidates are locked. They locked yesterday, so all the 8 candidates. Bobby Charles will be there. I only say that because he has not been at the prior debates, so that should be interesting. It's getting a little chippy. I'm seeing some of the guys on social media going after each other.
Yeah.
Owen McCarthy put out a statement today being like, hey, guys, let's not get mad at each other. Let's focus on the Democrats. A noble message, I suppose, but it's way more entertaining, I think, if we see some chippiness at the debate. But we'll see what happens. We're certainly not encouraging that from the candidates, but, whatever happens out there. But, I think it's going to be real exciting. And we're all going to be there in person. So it's going to be a tremendous event. Yeah, I hope you all tune in and get tickets if you're in the area.
Yes, and maybe we'll be in the, who knows? We'll be local. We'll be in Bangor on the day before the debate as well. Who knows? Anything could happen. But reach out to us and tell us where should we hang out? Is there somewhere we should eat? That's what we need. That's the most important thing here.
Suggestions, yes, we need suggestions. But also one thing I want to say, Graham does a great job promoting this, but people have been asking me quite a bit, if I can't go to Bangor, where can I see it? You can see it on our YouTube page. You can see it on the Maine Wire's YouTube page, the Maine Wire's Facebook page, and we'll be live streaming it on our X account as well, too. You want to join us in person for $10 at a ticket in Bangor. You want to because we're going to do a pre and a post game show, and we're going to have a lot of fun. But if you can't make that drive, just check out our social pages. It's the event of the campaign season by far. Yeah.
James,
and I have big breaking news. I was just going to read that, Tom. I was just going to read that from James Cody. Cody? Sorry if I pronounced that wrong, James. Will the sword of truth at least be outside the venue? Well, I can confirm we have approval from the Cross Center. The sword of truth will be in attendance in a display case. So you can all gaze your eyes. You can feast your eyes at the magnificence of the sword of truth in person.
Feel the power of the sword. Yes.
Feel the power. You can take photos with the sword. It's going to be incredible. So I know that's really the main event. Maybe we got to keep that hush-hush because no one will pay attention to the debate.
James has put the sword of truth in Paul Bunyan's hand. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, climb up that statue. That's a great call. Great call, James.
You're strong and young, Graham. You can get up there.
I could get up there. Yeah. Yeah. Strap that thing on my back. And yeah, exactly.
For a cold one or two beforehand. Get some courage going.
I'll talk to the police. We just need one picture, officer, before you arrest him. Okay.
Yeah, we'll have some Mainwire social media contests, and we're going to be doing shots at a bar. And then next thing you know, on the IG story, I'll be up at getting arrested from the top of the Paul Bunyan statue.
Jacqueline says York County Republicans are holding a watch party. Here we go.
Hey. Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. Send me some info on that, Jacqueline. I'd love to promote that.
Yeah.
All right, guys. As usual, it's always great to join you here on Mainwire TV. I am Tom Shattuck. He is John Featherston. He is Graham Pollard. We will see you tomorrow at 4 p.m. right here on Mainwire TV.